The fighting in Jabalia has intensified, with the Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas clashing in northern Gaza. Hamas remains active and effective in Jabalia despite losing their local commander in October 2023. Palestinian fighters have established tunnels and tactics to evade Israeli forces. The Israeli Defense Forces reports that Jabalia is experiencing some of the most violent fighting seen in recent days. The high rate of Palestinian attacks suggests that Hamas is deliberately defending the area against Israeli Defense Forces' advances. This ongoing conflict in Jabalia indicates that Hamas can continue its resistance despite heavy Israeli military pressure. The United States is considering appointing a U.S. official to serve as the top civilian advisor for post-war scenarios in the Gaza Strip. This potential role, discussed among U.S. officials, Israel, and other Middle Eastern partners, aims to transition Gaza to a more political phase and stabilization phase after the conflict. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan recently met with senior officials in Israel and Saudi Arabia to discuss this proposal. The advisor would be based in the Middle East, closely working with U.S., Israeli, and Palestinian leaders to oversee the transition and ensure effective coordination and support for rebuilding efforts. Palestinian militias have conducted 2 indirect fire attacks into Israel since May 23rd. According to Israeli Army radio, Palestinian fighters fired 2 rockets from Gaza City, which landed in open areas in Israel. Alarms sounded in Ofakim for the first time since January 2024. The Israeli Defense Forces Air Force responded by striking a site in Gaza City from which the rockets were launched. These incidents mark a continued pattern of rocket fire from Gaza into Israel, leading to heightened tensions and retaliatory strikes, further escalating the conflict between the two sides. Israeli forces engaged Palestinian fighters in at least 3 locations in the West Bank since May 23rd. The Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, a Palestinian militant group, fired small arms and detonated improvised explosive devices targeting Israeli forces in the Balata refugee camp in Nablus. This escalation marks a significant increase in violence in the West Bank, where Israeli forces are encountering resistance in their operations. These clashes are part of a broader conflict involving various Palestinian factions aiming to establish the West Bank as a viable front against Israel, contributing to the overall instability in the region. The Israeli Defense Forces 99th Division continued operations along the Netzarim corridor in southern Gaza City on May 24th. Israeli forces conducted airstrikes and tank fire targeting nearby Palestinian fighters. The Israeli Defense Forces claimed they killed the deputy commander of Hamas's National Interior Ministry, Dia al-Din al-Sharafa, during these operations. The Netzarim corridor is a strategic area for both Israeli and Palestinian forces, making it a focal point of intense fighting. The continued military actions in this corridor indicate the ongoing efforts by the Israeli Defense Forces to weaken Hamas's control and infrastructure in southern Gaza. Iranian political factions are maneuvering ahead of the June 2024 presidential election to replace Ibrahim Raisi. Reformist politicians, including former President Mohammad Khatami, argue that the election needs political diversity to encourage voter turnout. They are responding to Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei's recent moves to allow moderates and reformists more participation, aiming to counter low voter engagement. Social media reports suggest potential candidates like former Parliament Speaker Ali Larijani and hardliner Saeed Jalili might register. These political dynamics highlight the intense internal struggles within Iran as various factions prepare for a potentially pivotal election. The Houthis claim 3 separate attacks targeting vessels in the Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and the Mediterranean Sea. On May 23rd, they targeted the Panamanian-flagged MSC Alexandria with a surface-to-surface missile off the coast of Yemen. They also claim to have conducted a complex attack on the Panamanian-flagged Yanis in the Red Sea using a one-way attack drone and missiles. Central Command reported that Houthi fighters launched 2 anti-ship ballistic missiles into the Red Sea, although no damage or injuries were reported. These attacks highlight the Houthis' growing maritime capabilities and their impact on regional security.